Hi, my name is George Coles, and I am an avid retro video game collector.
Do a barrel roll!
I have decided to document my journeys as I grow my collection. Please join me as I share with you my finds. Welcome to Retro Game Treasure Hunting. Hi everybody, and like the intro said, my name is George Coles, and welcome to another episode of Retro Game Treasure Hunting. On this episode, we're going to talk about a couple pickups I picked up earlier this week. I took a little time to make some videos on them, so we're going to jump right into it. First off, the games are all GameCube games. I've been on a GameCube kick lately, mostly because I went back to it, and you can get a lot of the games reasonably. It's not a system that's being collected crazy right now, so you can get a lot of the games pretty cheap. First game I want to talk about, as you may know if you've been here for most of the run of my show, I'm a huge wrestling fan. So, first game I picked up, Wrestlemania 18. And I always thought this cover was interesting because it features The Rock and Hulk Hogan, but Rob Van Dam, who really wasn't a huge major player on the show. He had an Intercontinental title match on WrestleMania. But we're talking about a show that had, The Rock on it, Steve Austin versus Scott Hall, a bunch of other matches of someone they could have picked. It was an interesting pick for the cover. It's a lot of times in wrestling games they make some weirdest choices. And another funny thing I want to mention about the cover is there's two versions of this cover. I don't know if it's the player's choice that makes a change, which obviously was a later not a reproduction, but kind of like the PlayStation did with their greatest hits. They put out some of their games later on at a cheaper price. But if you notice, this has the WWE logo, whereas WrestleMania 18 actually had the WWF logo still. So the original game, the original cover has that. I don't know if it changes the price much on them. I don't know if either of the two is either more collectible. Like I said, GameCube hasn't really hit as a huge collecting thing yet, so you could still get some of these cheap. Now on to the game itself. It's a really solid game. It's a game I enjoyed immensely playing it back in the day, and I thought it was fun. It's the first of the Nintendo, or the GameCube era of the WWE games made by THQ. They're not working with Aki on this one, AKI, or however you pronounce it. I always pronounce it Aki because the wrestler in the game, so I called Aki Man. This was actually working with Ukes. So they went a little bit off a different kind of style with these, and it shows. They're not as good as the Nintendo 64 wrestling games, but there's still some of these more solid wrestling games that have been put out over the years. The main draw in this, there's not really a story mode. They have a Path of a Champion mode, which basically you pick a wrestler, pick a championship, and go through and get that. So, it's a fun game, it's a fun play. Not really much to go back to, other than if you're playing with friends, which is where this game actually stands out. This is a really fun game to take use of the 4-player option on GameCube. You can get 3 friends over and play 4 at the same time, and that's where the real fun comes in it, and that's where I had most of my fun playing this. Now, off of that, we're going to go into what my ratings for this is. We're going to grade this all on a 1 to 5 scale. First off, the graphics. I'm going to give the graphics a 3. It's not bad compared to what we see else on the GameCube, but it's not great either. It's a little bit choppy. Some of the wrestlers don't really look like how they looked. Some of them are spot on. Some of their body types aren't right. There's this weird torso to leg ratio in the game, which I always thought was kind of odd. Their torsos looked longer than they should have. I don't know. But to me, the graphics could have been better. They could have been worse. So I'm going to give it a 3 right in the middle. Gameplay, I'm going to give it a 3 for the reasons I just said. There isn't much of a story. There's no story mode, so there isn't really much to play it for other than having fun and as a multiplayer kind of deal. But other than that, the gameplay suffers because it doesn't have a story mode. Difficulty, I'm going to give it a 3. It's an easy one to pick up and kind of master within about an hour or so. You could easily buy this without ever have played the game and be really good at it by the end of the night. So I'm going to give difficulty a 3. Replay value, I'm going to give it a 4 for the reasons I said. This isn't going to be one that you replay over and over again yourself, but it's going to be one that if you got some friends over, some family over, and you got a couple GameCube controllers, you throw this in and you reminisce about the days. This is during the height of the Attitude Era, or actually towards the end of the Attitude Era, where wrestling was at its most popular, where most people reminisce about that era fondly. So replay value, I'm going to give it a 4. And last but not least, or well, almost last, last of our individual ratings, music. Now, this is kind of a cheat because they got to use the licensed music that was used for the actual wrestler entrances. So I can't really give them credit for putting together a great score. So I'm going to give it a 3 right there in the middle. I like a lot of the wrestling theme songs. Again, I'm a big wrestling fan, so of course I do. But again, it wasn't stuff made for the game. Whereas when you see me review like Crystal Chronicles, I talked about how impressive the music was. That was made specifically for that game. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. If you're not a wrestling fan or a fighting game fan, or you don't play with more than just yourself, if you're just playing games by yourself and you don't have friends, there's no online play, so there's not that. If you don't have friends coming over to play, it's probably one you should pass on. I bought it because I'm a wrestling fan, so that gives it a little bit more value to me. And if you're a wrestling fan, especially of this era, then yes, it's going to raise that value for you as well. I would say it's a pickup if it's cheap, and you, like I said, if you like fighting games, if you like wrestling games, if you have some friends that are going to be coming over to play with you, it's a good one to grab. Now next up, we're going to continue the same theme. We got Wrestlemania 19. Now a lot of what I said about 18 was going to carry over into this game as well. There is some improvements in this, some regression as well. The biggest improvement is the revenge mode. There's actually a storyline where you pick someone and you get kicked out of the WWE, but then you take Stephanie McMahon's side and you go on to do a story as a revenge against her father, Vince McMahon. I like this a lot. Another one of the big things that in this game that 18 doesn't have is you get the class of 2002. Which, if you're a wrestling fan, you know that's a huge class in the history of wrestling. You got guys like Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Dave Bautista coming out. The fun thing about this is John Cena is still in full Doctor of Thugonomics mode here. He's not quite the John Cena that's the biggest wrestler in the last decade yet. He's still in his early form of his gimmick. I really enjoy this one. There are, like I said, there's a lot of pluses over the 18 for this one, so if you're going to buy one of the two and you don't have a connection with either, I would recommend 19 over 18, which leads me right into my ratings for this. Graphic-wise, about the same, a little bit better. I'm still going to give it a 3 on this. It's a minutely better, but not enough to give me, give it much better rating. Gameplay, I'm going to give it a gameplay of 4 because it added that extra mode. It gave you a reason to play it by yourself. You didn't have to have friends over. You didn't have to have 4 controllers going for it to be a fun game. Difficulty, again, I'm going to give it a 3, about the same. You should be able to pick up and play this and master it within about an hour. Replay value, I'm going to give it a 4. Same reasons as this one, as the other one. It is fun to play with people. It is still fun to play with yourself. And again, I know a lot of these, I should have probably did them both at the same time, but I digress. Replay value, give it a 4. Music, same as the first one, I give it a 3. It leaned on the crutch of having the wrestlers' entrances already for them to go. Overall, I give it a 3 as well. Not much difference between these two, like I said. If you go into it and you want to get one or the other, I would recommend looking at the rosters, seeing which roster you would prefer. If you want one with just a play solo mode, this would be the one to go with, unless you like this roster better. So, again, it's basically apples and apples. Which apple do you think tastes better, the green apple or the red apple? But I digress. And last but not least, my third of my game pickups, and then I do have a couple other non-game pickups. Mario Golf Toadstoll Tour. This game, I loved. I loved it the first time I have it. I love it now. It's the second game in the Mario Golf series. It's incredibly fun to play. Another game that's really fun to play with a bunch of people in mind. It's also really fun to play on your own. I thoroughly enjoy this game. There is some difficulty dialing it in and getting your swing down, getting your stroke. I had a lot of trouble going back and playing the short game. Basically, I could hit the power hits, but my short game I always seem to be overpowering a bit. And it takes a while to dial that in to figure out where you are. Once you have that dialed in, once you got the mechanics of the game down, it becomes really fun. It never becomes tremendously easy, which I like about this game, which could have been, being that it's a game that potentially was marketed towards children, but it still was really fun even as an adult to play. Some of the things I really enjoyed on it, like I said, I thought this was a really fun game. It's really fun to play with you and your friends, also really fun to play by yourself. Now, going off of that, let's go on our ratings for this. Much like most of the Nintendo proprietary titles, the graphics are a 5. They did an awesome job with this. It's the classic. It's what you think Mario should look like. It's what Luigi should look like, Donkey Kong. You know, all the people in here are how you imagine them in your head. It looks beautiful. It looks fun. Gameplay, I'm going to give it a 3. Like I said, it does take a while to dial into the exact mechanics, so they could have cleaned that up a bit, but still it is fun to play. Difficulty for that reason itself, and the fact that it is a golf game and you do have to think about these things. It's not a slam dunk easy. You're not going to beat everybody right away. I'm going to give the gameplay or the difficulty a 5. It's actually kind of difficult to get into. Replay value, I give that a 5 as well, because it is fun, and it is fun to go ahead and master some of these courses and some of the swings and some of the different people that you play with. Music, I give it a 4. Nintendo is usually really good with their musical scores for their games. They make really awesome soundtracks. They make really awesome games, obviously. That's why Nintendo proprietary games hold their value so well. This is a fun game. It's on the cheaper side of some of the Nintendo proprietary games. I expect very soon, we're coming up where the GameCube generation, the generation of kids that played GameCube, are about to be hitting their late 20s, early 30s, which is when you start seeing that influx into the retro gaming market. I've seen it happen with the NES kids, which was my generation, when they hit their 30s, that they wanted to go back and get the NES games, and then a couple of years later, there was an influx of the Super Nintendo and Genesis kids that, you know, again, I had those both, but you see where they start. Where you started as a kid is where you start going back to collect. So the kids that grew up playing Super Nintendo, grew up playing GameCube 15, 17 years ago, are now at the age where they're like, I wish I still kept my GameCube. I wish I didn't sell it to GameStop or EB Games or give it to my cousin or whatever they did with it, because we all did that with our systems, are wanting to go back and get them. And this is one of the games they should probably go back and get while it's still on the cheap. Like I said, really fun game, really enjoyed it. Now, that's the last of the actual games. In the same stop at the same store, and I'm going to talk about the store a little bit later, I was able to pick up a couple other things. And I'm going to bring them both out at the same time. Now, I collect Funko Pops. If you can't see, I'm going to take a picture and overlay it. But we have here 2 Chewbacca Funko Pops. Now, the important thing about both of these is this Chewbacca Funko Pop is signed by Peter Mayhew, who is the original actor that was in the costume all the way up to Last Jedi, and still through there in parts. This one is signed by Jonas Soyotama, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, because I haven't heard his name actually much in interviews. I've heard it a few times. I actually haven't seen too many interviews with him, but he is the new guy that played Chewbacca in Solo and in Last Jedi mostly. And when I first seen these, I thought they were both signed by Peter Mayhew. I didn't realize it was both of them, because they were kind of a little bit away. And then when I realized it was both Chewbacca actors, I had to get them both. I was going to get the Peter Mayhew one and pick one of the two, which one I liked better. But then I seen there was both actors. I had to get both of them. I love Chewbacca. I love Star Wars, so of course I had to get them. Now, I was able to afford all of this because I made a trade-in at this store. I traded in a Holy Grail game. Now, a lot of people say, well, you're retro game treasure hunting. Why are you trading in a Holy Grail? I did so because it's actually sat in my bedroom for 5 years without even sitting and going into a system. And the game I traded in was the Donkey Kong Country competition cartridge. Now, I got a fair deal off of it. I'm not going to say here because I don't want you to know. If you're planning to go to the store, which I'm going to mention, I don't want you to know what I was given for it, but let's just say I thought it was fair. The owner of the store thought it was fair. We both came out happy with it. I am mostly happy because when I seen his reaction, now first off, if you remember a couple weeks ago, my very first video on this, the Teen Titans and Crystal Chronicles video, I had mentioned that I had that, and he made me an offer. So I sat and I mulled it over, and I remembered he had this, which I thought, I was going to trade it in, get one of the Peter Mayhews, and then have some credit, which I still have a good amount of credit at the store. It wasn't just these things that I got, I still have a good amount of credit. So I traded in for some store credit, which saves him, of course, because he's not paying money, store credits. Again, the deal was very good for both of us, but when I talked to him, I seen his face light up, and I seen how excited he was to know that not only did that game exist in the wild, but it was here in this little town, and it came from this little town, and he was able to get his hands on it. So a lot of that went into my wanting to trade it into him and give it to that specific person. Now, the reason I mention that is because if you're interested, also if you're interested in all, I have his business card here. It's Flash Comics, Games, and Collectibles. I'm going to put the link to their Facebook page. I don't think they have a website, but it's in Sebring, Florida, which is where I live. It's at the Sebring Lakeshore Mall. If you're nearby, I highly recommend stopping by here if you're happening to go through town. If you have to come through Sebring, going other places, and you want to stop in, definitely stop in there. It's a really cool store. The prices he has is very fair. A lot of times he's better or comparable to what you can find stuff online for, which I really like, because you could get to go there and you get to look at it in person. You get to see, is there scratches on the disc? Is the cartridge loose? Is there chips? Is the sticker damaged? all that good stuff. You get to see more of that in person and hold it in your hand before you can buy it. And he's very, very fair. Very knowledgeable people there that work there. I've talked to 2 different people that work there. Very knowledgeable of what they have. When I mentioned the Teen Titans game that I didn't know about it, he recommended I try it if I liked the Teen Titans, which I really did like the game, actually. So, I want to give them a shout out. They're a really cool store. Check out their link down here. I'm pretty sure he mails stuff out. I think I've seen on his Facebook where he's mentioned that he's mailed stuff to people. So hit him up. Like I said, Flash games, comics, and collectibles. I have to keep saying it that way because I just think of it as Flash in my head. But it's a really cool store in a really little town, and everybody that worked there is super awesome. And maybe one day we'll do a video from there. I'll have to talk to him about that, see if they're okay with that. But definitely recommend them if you're in this area or you live nearby. Now, with all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Retro Game Treasure Hunting.